two teams walked out with nothing left to play for. That is what almost everyone believed before kickoff. The third-place match at a World Cup usually gets treated like a leftover fixture, the one game fans quietly skip. It happens right after both sides have already lost their real dream, the chance to reach the final, so players often look tired and heartbroken instead of hungry. This time the two teams were England and France, both still bruised from bigger losses only days before. Almost nobody expected fireworks from a game like this. What they got instead was 10 goals, a hat-trick, a historic scoring record that changed hands twice in one single afternoon, and a long-serving manager walking away from the game forever in the strangest possible way. By full time, people all over Miami were asking each other the exact same question. How did a match nobody cared about turn into one of the wildest, most talked about games in World Cup history? Let's start right at the top, because the first half alone was enough to shock the entire stadium. Just 3 minutes in, Declan Rice struck a shot from distance that flew past the goalkeeper and put England ahead. Fans inside Hard Rock Stadium had barely settled into their seats before the scoreboard changed. Not long after that, Rice swung a corner kick into the box, and Ezri Konsa rose above everyone around him to head the ball into the second goal. Then came Bukayo Saka, who quietly decided this was going to be his afternoon to shine. He scored twice before the halftime whistle, with the second goal arriving right on the very stroke of the break. England walked into the tunnel 4 goals ahead against a France side built around Kylian Mbappé, one of the most dangerous attacking players on the planet. From the outside, it looked less like a football match between two nations and more like a complete takeover by one team. A game like this deserved a packed stadium, and remarkably it got one. A sellout crowd of 64,478 people filled Hard Rock Stadium for the very last match of the entire tournament. Many supporters in the stands wore the colors of both teams at once. Others were simply there because they wanted one final World Cup night before the tournament ended for good. One Manchester United supporter reportedly flew all the way from Mexico City just to cheer on England, telling reporters, "I love English football." A France fan who had traveled from Paris reportedly made the trip hoping to see Mbappé score a hat-trick of his own. None of them arrived expecting to witness a genuine classic. By the final whistle, every single one of them had gotten exactly that. Now hold on to that 4-goal scoreline for a moment, because France were about to answer it in the most dramatic way imaginable. This was not just any France squad walking out for the second half. It was reportedly Didier Deschamps' final match in charge of the national team, closing out 14 years as head coach and 2 separate World Cup finals reached along the way. A manager like that was never going to let his very last game end quietly as a flat 4-goal defeat. At halftime, he made 4 substitutions all at once, bringing on fresh legs including Ousmane Dembélé and Bradley Barcola. It was a bold, almost desperate gamble, the kind of move that felt like resetting the entire match from scratch and hoping for a miracle. The gamble worked almost immediately. Just 3 minutes into the second half, Michael Olise slipped a clever pass through the England defense to Mbappé, who finished it first time past goalkeeper Dean Henderson. 4-1. That single goal carried far more weight than the score alone suggested. It was reportedly Mbappé's 21st World Cup goal across his career, a number that pulled him level with the all-time scoring record Lionel Messi had reportedly set only days earlier at the very same tournament. Messi himself was not even inside the stadium to see it happen. He was reportedly resting ahead of his own final the following day, watching from a distance as his brand new record got matched without him ever stepping onto the pitch. 6 minutes later, Mbappé switched roles from scorer to provider, setting up Barcola to finish calmly from close range. 4-2. The crowd that had arrived expecting a quiet, meaningless afternoon suddenly realized they were watching something completely different unfold in front of them. Then, in the 66th minute, Mbappé struck again himself, beating Henderson for a second time in the match. 4-3. Just one single goal now separated the two teams, and Mbappé had reportedly achieved something truly historic in the process. That particular strike was reportedly his 22nd World Cup goal, moving him past Messi to become the tournament's all-time leading scorer, a record broken inside a match that everyone had assumed would mean absolutely nothing at all. France very nearly grabbed the equalizer too. Alice, who reportedly racked up 7 assists across the whole tournament, a single World Cup record in its own right, was gifted a golden chance from 12 yards out soon after. He side-footed his effort just wide of the post. Had that chance gone in, this match might well have finished level at 4 apiece. Instead, England managed to steady themselves, still narrowly ahead at 4-3. Then Saka took charge of the match once again. Down the right flank, Jed Spence drove forward into the box, got clipped by Malo Gusto, and the referee immediately pointed to the spot. In the 87th minute, England were awarded a penalty. Jude Bellingham reportedly told his teammate to take the spot kick himself, saying something close to, "Go get your hat-trick." Saka stepped up calmly and scored. 5-3, his third goal of the day, and reportedly just the 4th hat-trick ever scored by any player across the entire history of the World Cup. Even that dramatic moment was not the end of the story. Dembele cut inside from the left in stoppage time and scored yet another goal, 5-4, and suddenly half the stadium was back on its feet, screaming for one more France goal that would have leveled things at 5 apiece. That equalizer never arrived. In the 98th minute, deep into second-half stoppage time, Bellingham drove into the box himself and finished calmly from close range. 6-4, full-time. Somewhere in that stadium, the 4th official was probably checking his watch twice just to be sure. Now let's talk about exactly how big these numbers really are. 10 combined goals is reportedly the highest total in a single World Cup fixture since a 1982 game where Hungary defeated El Salvador 10-1, and reportedly the highest ever seen specifically in a third-place playoff. Bellingham's late goal was reportedly his 7th of the entire tournament, reportedly a new high for any England player in one single World Cup, edging past the 6 goals each that both Harry Kane and Gary Lineker managed, Lineker's tally coming back in 1986. This also reportedly marked England's strongest tournament result since they lifted the trophy itself back in 1966, a full 60 years earlier. A bronze medal still stings for any professional player, but this particular one arrived wrapped in genuine history. It helps to remember exactly how both of these teams ended up playing in this fixture at all. Neither side actually wanted to be here. England had been a single goal ahead of Argentina in the semi-final before Messi reportedly set up 2 late goals that completely turned the match around, sending England crashing out instead. France, meanwhile, had more than enough attacking talent to win the entire tournament outright, yet still lost to Spain in that same semi-final round, missing the chance to reach a 3rd World Cup final in a row. So this was really 2 exhausted, heartbroken squads, both making 7 changes to their starting lineups, both running on empty after a long tournament, somehow still combining for 10 goals between them anyway. That surrounding context is exactly what makes this such an unusual result to fully understand. France were not careless out there, they were simply drained and taking bigger risks than usual. England were not lucky either, they built a genuinely strong lead through real quality football, then had to defend that lead under enormous pressure through the entire second half. England manager Thomas Tuchel had reportedly been booed by his own supporters before kickoff, still clearly feeling the weight of that painful semi-final collapse against Argentina days earlier. Afterward, he reportedly pointed out that his squad had 1 fewer rest day than France and had also traveled far greater distances across the whole tournament. Deschamps, on the other side of the pitch, was gracious in defeat, reportedly admitting afterward, "We were not expecting such a first half." Saka, who had just completed his own hat-trick, reportedly summed the entire afternoon up simply as, "A crazy, crazy game." But underneath the scoreline sits something far bigger, the real reason this particular match will likely be remembered for years to come. This was reportedly Deschamps' last ever walk off a World Cup pitch as France's head coach, 14 years in charge that included winning the World Cup back in 2018 and 2 separate finals reached along the way, all of it ending in a wild 6-4 game that he very nearly turned around himself at the last minute. He reportedly hugged each of his players in turn, gave the crowd one last wave, and said afterward that he did not want a single afternoon to sum up his whole career. He is probably right about that. 14 years of hard work simply cannot be measured fairly by one chaotic, unpredictable match in Miami, however unforgettable that match genuinely was. Then there is the record itself, sitting quietly underneath all the chaos. Mbappe reportedly overtook Messi's all-time World Cup scoring mark just hours before Messi even played his own final the very next day. That meant Messi reportedly walked into the single biggest match of his career already knowing exactly what he needed to do to take that record straight back. Mbappe, when later asked about the whole situation, reportedly said that Messi scores goals all the time and would very likely score again the following day regardless. He then added something that completely reframed the whole wild afternoon, saying he would honestly rather not hold the all-time scoring record at all if it meant he could have played in the final himself instead. That particular comment only truly makes sense once you remember the long history shared between these two players. Mbappe reportedly burst onto the World Cup scene back in 2018 as a teenager and won the entire tournament that year. Back in 2022, he even netted 3 goals in the final itself, yet still ended up on the losing side, because Messi finally claimed the one trophy that had chased him for his entire career. Now the numbers between the two men stack up like a running scoreboard that either player can simply ignore. Mbappe reportedly finished this tournament with 10 goals compared to Messi's 8, 2 goals clear at the very top of the scoring charts, and 22 total career World Cup goals compared to Messi's 21. Every single one of those numbers was still up for grabs before this match began, and each of them tilted firmly toward Mbappe by the full-time whistle, leaving Messi with just one more night to try and respond. So this supposedly meaningless, forgettable match ended up doing far more than simply filling an idle afternoon. It quietly produced genuine footballing history and set the stage perfectly for an even bigger night still to follow. 10 combined goals, a 4-goal lead that very nearly disappeared completely, a 14-year managerial era ending in total chaos, a 60-year wait finally producing its very best chapter since 1966, and the single most important scoring record in all of World Cup history changing hands in a game that was never supposed to matter at all. Football keeps doing exactly this, again and again. It saves its wildest, most unbelievable moments for the exact games nobody expects to watch closely, and somehow makes it impossible to look somewhere else. Was it Saka's penalty with a hat-trick sitting on the line, Mbappe quietly breaking the all-time record, or Bellingham's calm finish deep into stoppage time that will stay with you the longest? Let us know your own pick down below, and stay tuned, because the Argentina vs Spain final truly deserves exactly this kind of detailed breakdown too.